My son checked me into a nursing home on a Tuesday morning. No warning, no conversation, no permission. He signed the papers, patted my shoulder like I was already gone, and walked out. Then he drove straight home, picked up his phone, and called my life insurance company. $2 million. My policy, my money, everything I spent a lifetime building. He told them I was mentally unfit, said I couldn't make my own decisions anymore, said it was time to move things forward, start processing the claim. He really believed it, believed I was confused, locked away, finished. But he forgot something. I didn't build $2 million by being careless. I didn't get here by trusting people blindly, not even family. And the trap he thought he set for me, I saw it coming. No, I prepared for it long before he ever made that call. So don't go anywhere, because what happens next, over the next 30 minutes, he never saw it coming, not even close. Welcome to Proven Right Stories. If you're new here, don't miss what's coming next, because on this channel, the people who get pushed down don't stay there, they get back up. Now, before we step into today's story, get comfortable, grab your coffee, maybe something to eat, because this one stays with you. This is the story of a father, a man who spent 40 years building something real, and a son who decided his father's life was worth more as a payout than as a presence. But more than that, this is a story about a folder, one very specific folder, kept in a very specific drawer, by a man who never left things to chance, and had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. Let's go. My name is Gerald Okafor. I'm 73 years old. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. I came to the United States in 1974, 22 years old, $400 in my pocket, a single suitcase, and a kind of belief in this country you only carry when you choose it. Before I tell you what my son did, you need to understand something about me. I am not a naive man. I never have been. At 22, I walked away from everything I knew to build something from nothing in a country that didn't owe me a thing. And I did it. I spent 15 years in logistics, warehouse floors, freight coordination, long days that turned into longer nights. I worked my way up, step by step, until I became a regional director at a distribution company in Atlanta, Georgia. I saved aggressively. I invested carefully. Every document I signed, I read it 3 times before I ever put my name on it. By 50, I owned 2 rental properties, free and clear. By 60, my retirement portfolio was strong enough that my financial advisor told me I was in the top 5% of Americans my age. That's the kind of man I am. Careful, patient, prepared. And that's exactly why what my son tried to do to me was never going to end the way he thought it would. And I had a $2 million life insurance policy, one I had been paying into for 22 years. Now, I'm not telling you this to impress you. I'm telling you so you understand exactly what kind of man my son believed he could outsmart. My son's name is Victor. He's 44 years old. He grew up watching me work, watching me read contracts, watching me negotiate. He watched me walk away from deals that looked perfect on the surface, because I knew how to look deeper. He saw all of it, and somehow, he still thought he could run this play on me. That should tell you something about Victor. We've had a complicated relationship for most of his adult life. Not hostile, just complicated. He resented the discipline that built everything around him. He wanted the outcome, without the process, the rewards, without the years it takes to earn them. He wanted the inheritance, without the patience of waiting for it the right way. My wife, Adiz, passed away in 2019, pancreatic cancer. She was 68. We had been married 41 years. After she was gone, Victor started showing up more, calling more, checking in. And at first, I thought it was grief. I thought it was loss, bringing him back to me. I was wrong, Dad, I'll be honest. At the time, I appreciated it. Grief does something to your judgment. Not forever, but in those first few months, you're softer than usual, more open, more willing to take things at face value. Because the alternative, believing the people closest to you, might have an agenda, that takes a kind of energy you just don't have. Victor started visiting every 2 weeks. That first year, he helped around the house, fixed small things, drove me to a few appointments, showed up just enough to feel consistent. And then, he started asking questions. Not aggressive, not obvious, careful questions. The kind that don't raise alarms until you realize what they're really about. Dad, have you updated your estate documents since Mom passed? Dad, what happens to the properties if something happens to you? Do you actually have a plan in place? I told him I did. I told him everything was handled. I told him not to worry about it. He smiled and changed the subject. But the questions didn't stop. They just changed shape, different angles. Same destination. Then, in the spring of 2021, Victor came to me with a suggestion. He said he'd been speaking to a financial planner, someone he trusted, someone who had reviewed my situation. And apparently, this person recommended that I assign Victor as my power of attorney, just in case, he said, to make things easier. If anything ever happens. I looked at my son for a long moment. Victor, I said, I already have an attorney. His name is Raymond Osei. He's handled my affairs for 19 years. If I ever decide I need a power of attorney, that conversation will be with Raymond, not with a financial planner I've never met. Victor nodded, said that was fine, but his voice said it wasn't. I called Raymond. The next morning, Raymond Osei is 61 years old, a corporate attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. I've known him since 1996. He's thorough, quiet, and exceptionally difficult to surprise. I told him everything. Victor's visit, the questions, the suggestion about power of attorney, and the financial planner I had never heard of. Raymond listened without interrupting, didn't rush me, didn't react. He just let me finish. And when I did, he spoke. Gerald, I need you to do something for me. I waited. I want you to document every conversation you have with Victor, anything about your finances, your estate, or your health. From this point forward, write it down, date it, and keep it somewhere he cannot access. I paused. Why? There was a moment of silence on the line. Then Raymond said, because I've seen this pattern before, and I want to make sure that if this ever turns into a legal matter, we have a record. And just like that, what felt like a conversation started to feel like a warning. I started keeping a journal that afternoon, just like Raymond told me. Date, time, every conversation. And the conversations with Victor didn't stop. They continued through 2021 and into 2022. Each one a little more precise, a little more intentional. Then, in October of 2022, Victor brought up the nursing home, not as a threat, not directly. He wrapped it in concern, said he had been reading about cognitive decline in men my age, said he had noticed small things, that I had repeated myself once in a conversation, that I had forgotten a lunch we scheduled. Nothing serious, he said, just worth looking into, just to be safe, just to make sure I was okay. I told him I was fine. I had a full physical every year. My doctor, Dr. Marcus Webb, at Piedmont Atlanta Hospital, had given me a clean bill of health 6 weeks earlier, including a full cognitive assessment. I told Victor the first could have Dr. Webb send him the summary if it would ease his mind. Victor said that would be wonderful. So I sent it, and he said he was glad, relieved, even. And then, 3 months later, he did it anyway. It was a Wednesday morning in January 2023. Victor showed up at my house at 7:30 a.m., earlier than I expected. He wasn't alone. There was a woman with him, a social worker, he said, from a senior care organization. He spoke quickly, like he had rehearsed it, said he'd been coordinating with her about my care needs. Then he mentioned a doctor, not Dr. Webb, someone else, someone I had never met, a man who had reviewed my history and had concerns. And then he said there was a facility, a good one, comfortable, just a short stay, he said, while everything gets properly assessed. I stood there, in my own doorway, and looked at my son, really looked at him. Victor, I said, you do not have the authority to place me anywhere. You do not have power of attorney. You do not have guardianship. You have nothing that gives you the legal right to make this decision. And for a moment, he didn't say anything. That he said the doctor's assessment was enough. Said the social worker was there to make it official. The social worker, a young woman who looked deeply uncomfortable, spoke carefully, said that if there was a credible medical opinion regarding my capacity, certain processes could be initiated. I looked at her, then at Victor. Then I turned, walked inside, and called Raymond Osei. Victor stayed at my door the entire time, 40 minutes, waiting, listening, watching. Raymond didn't hesitate. Do not go anywhere with them. Get the doctor's name. I'll handle the rest. So I did. Dr. Philip Hargrove, a geriatric specialist. His office, 40 minutes from my house. A man I had never seen, never been referred to, never even heard of. And somehow, my name was already in his system. Raymond told me to stay home, stay calm, and let him work. An hour later, Victor and the social worker left. And for the first time, this wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was a plan. He said the doctor's assessment was enough. Said the social worker was there. To make it official, the social worker, a young woman who looked deeply uncomfortable, spoke carefully, said that if there was a credible medical opinion regarding my capacity, certain processes could be initiated. I looked at her, then at Victor. Then I turned, walked inside, and called Raymond Osei. Victor stayed at my door the entire time, 40 minutes, waiting, listening, watching. Raymond didn't hesitate. Do not go anywhere with them. Get the doctor's name. I'll handle the rest. So I did. Dr. Philip Hargrove, a geriatric specialist. His office, 40 minutes from my house. A man I had never seen, never been referred to, never even heard of. And somehow, my name was already in his system. Raymond told me to stay home, stay calm, and let him work. An hour later, Victor and the social worker left. And for the first time, this wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was a plan. What happened over the next 72 hours? I can tell you now with complete clarity, because Raymond walked me through it. As it was happening, step by step, Raymond contacted Dr. Webb immediately. Dr. Webb was, to put it mildly, not pleased. He had cleared me 6 weeks earlier. Full physical, full cognitive assessment. No concerns, no flags, and absolutely no referral to anyone named Hargrove. No authorization, no record, nothing. That same afternoon, he drafted a formal letter, reaffirming my cognitive competence and directly contradicting whatever assessment Dr. Hargrove claimed to have made. Then Raymond moved. He contacted the licensing board, started asking questions about Dr. Philip Hargrove. What he found was interesting. 3 prior complaints against his license, 2 of them elderly patients, declared cognitively impaired, only to have those assessments challenged by their primary physicians. And one of those cases had already led to a formal reprimand. Raymond filed a complaint that same day, didn't wait, didn't hesitate. Then he shifted focus to the insurance company. Because here's the part I hadn't told you yet. While Victor was standing at my front door that Wednesday morning, I wasn't making one call. I was making 2. The second call was to my insurance company, Pacific Life. I had held that policy since 2001, $2 million. I gave them my name, my policy number. Then I told them I had reason to believe someone might try to contact them on my behalf without my authorization. I asked them to flag the account. To make one thing very clear, no action, no changes, no conversations, without speaking to me directly. The representative, a woman named Cynthia, confirmed it immediately. Account flagged, notation added, everything documented. And then, she said something that stopped me cold. There was a pause, just long enough for me to feel it. And then she said, "Mr. Okafor, someone has already called. 3 days earlier, a man had called Pacific Life. He identified himself as my son, said he was my authorized representative, and he asked about the process for filing an early claim on the grounds of terminal or incapacitating illness. He didn't get the information. He didn't have the authorization code, so the call went nowhere. But he made it 3 days before he showed up at my door with a social worker. That's when it became clear. He had a sequence. First, have me declared incompetent. Then, secure power of attorney. And finally, file the claim, step by step, not impulsive, not emotional, planned, the way you plan a project, with stages, with timing, with pieces moving quietly into place, before the person at the center of it ever realizes what's happening. I sat in my kitchen after that second call and felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Not anger, something colder, the kind of clarity that comes when you see betrayal all at once, not in pieces, but as a complete structure. My son looked at me, his father, a man who came to this country with $400 and built something real. And he didn't see a person. He saw a transaction. He looked at my life and saw a payout. I sat with that for a long time. Then I picked up the phone and called Raymond Osei again. Raymond is not a man who moves slowly when there's a reason to move fast. Within 48 hours, he had filed a formal complaint with the Georgia Insurance Commissioner regarding the unauthorized inquiry to Pacific Life. He contacted the social workers organization, and when their director saw Dr. Webb's letter and learned about Dr. Hardrose's complaint history. They moved quickly. All paperwork. Withdrawn. Formally. Immediately. Then Raymond documented everything. Every step Victor had taken. The call to Pacific Life. The unverified medical assessment. The attempted placement. All of it compiled. Into a formal legal file. A record. Something that now existed. Beyond opinion. Beyond denial. And then, he made one more call. He called Victor. I wasn't on that call. But Raymond told me everything afterward. He spoke calmly. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. He told Victor that every action, over the past several months, had been documented, that the insurance inquiry was logged, that Dr. Hardrose's assessment had been formally challenged and was now under review, that the social worker's paperwork had already been withdrawn, and that if Victor made one more attempt to interfere with my affairs, my finances, or my medical care, he would file for a protective order and pursue civil fraud charges. There was silence, a long one. Then Victor finally said, I was just trying to help my father. Raymond didn't argue, didn't react. He simply said, I understand, and your father understands, and so does the Georgia Insurance Commissioner. A pause. Then, so I would encourage you to find another way to help. Victor didn't come back. For 4 months. When he finally called, it was a Sunday evening in May. His voice was different, flatter, quieter. He didn't sound like a man with a plan anymore. He sounded like someone who had been sitting with something heavy for a long time. He said he was sorry, said things had gotten complicated. There were debts he hadn't told me about, a business investment that had gone badly, pressure, the kind he didn't know how to handle. So he handled it the worst way possible. I let him finish, didn't interrupt. Then I said, Victor, I know what you did. I know when it started. I know every step of it. And there's something I should have told you a long time ago. He didn't speak. I didn't build what I built to leave you with nothing. I built it to leave you with something real. The same way I built everything. Carefully. With a plan. Not as a shortcut. Not as a payout. I paused. What you tried to do wasn't just illegal. It was a statement. A statement about what you think I'm worth. About what you think my life is worth. And that's the part I'm going to need time with. There was silence. Then Victor said, he understood. And this time, I think he did. For the first time in a long time. I think he actually understood something. Clearly, I'm still in my house. In Atlanta, Georgia. I still walk every morning. 2 miles. Same route. Same time. I still meet Raymond Osei for lunch. The first Tuesday of every month. I still see Dr. Marcus Webb once a year. And he still sends me home with a clean report. And that same dry humor he's had for 15 years. The journal, the one I started, the afternoon Raymond told me to document everything, is now 4 notebooks long. I didn't keep it because I was afraid. I kept it because I understand something most people don't learn until it's too late. Preparation is not pessimism. My father told me that. In Lagos, in 1973, the year before I left, he said, Gerald, the man who plans for the worst and never needs it has lost nothing. But the man who needs it and never planned has lost everything. I thought about that a great deal over the past 2 years. I thought about it that Wednesday morning when Victor stood at my door with a social worker he had arranged, a doctor's assessment he had sourced, and a plan already in motion. I thought about it when Cynthia at Pacific Life told me someone had already called, and I thought about it later, sitting in my kitchen, looking out at the backyard, at a Dee's rose garden, still there, still growing, exactly the way she planted it. Steady, consistent, alive, because she planned it that way. She chose the soil, studied the drainage, placed each plant, knowing it would outlast the season she put it in. That was a Dee's. And that's where Victor came from. 2 people who planned, 2 people who built, 2 people who never left things to chance. He just forgot that part. I hope, for his sake, he remembers it now. If you're watching this today, and there's someone in your life making you feel like your time is running out, like your choices are no longer yours, like the things you built are closer to being taken than you ever imagined, hear this clearly. Write things down. Date them. Keep copies. Somewhere safe. Know who your attorney is. Know the number of your insurance company. Know your doctors by name. And most importantly, know this. Preparation is not paranoia. It's discipline. It's respect for the life you built and for the version of yourself who might one day have to defend it. Some things are worth protecting, not because you're afraid, but because you earned them. And nobody gets to take what you built, not even someone who shares your name. If this story stayed with you, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready for the next story, it's already waiting. I'll see you there.